Welcome to The Read Down, your weekly progressive political hot take by the Stonewall Democratic Club. On today's episode, we'll be joined by special guest panelists Tess Rafferty and Amy Wiwuga to discuss the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump. We're going to have our very exclusive interview with Congressman Jimmy Gomez. Congressman Jimmy Gomez of California's 34th Congressional District. He's going to be talking about his experience at the Capitol insurrection on January 6th and why it's crucial that we convict Donald Trump and expel Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. And he was there. He's going to tell us his firsthand account. And meanwhile, 11 GOP senators voted against the organization of the trial. So the stink of Trump wafts over beyond his single term. And here we are. This is The Read Down. All right, everybody, welcome to I'm Alex Mohajer. I'm your moderator this week, and my co-hosts Ebony Murphy Root and Jonathan Welch are out this week, but we've got a great show planned for you with some amazing special guest panelists. I'd like to welcome first and foremost the wonderful author of Under the Tuscan Gun. It's Tess Rafferty, everybody.
Hello, hi, thanks for having me.
Welcome back to the program, Tess. It's been a few months.
Yeah, I think the last time I was here was the night of the Kamala Harris-Mike Pence debate.
Oh my God. So much has happened. Oh my God. Well, since then we've had an election, an insurrection, an impeachment, and an inauguration. So welcome back.
Christmas.
It's like Christmas. And it's, you know, it's never ending, but thank you. It's good to have you back. And I'd like to also welcome to the program none other than Amy Wiwuga. Welcome to the program, Amy.
Hey, Alex, I'm here. I'm live. I'm not a cat.
And
You'll see later.
Amy's a staple of the Stonewall Democratic Club who produces this program, and we love having her. We're so happy to have you, and you're a firebrand and just so exciting. So it's a great week to have you on too, because everything has gone mad. It's actually, I'll go ahead and say it's actually December 72nd. We're still stuck in the perpetual hell loop of 2020, and there's just so much to cover. First and foremost, it's the weekly read down, everybody. This is today, marks the very first day of the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump. So Donald Trump, only the first president in American history to be impeached twice, and represents 50% of all of history's presidential impeachments. What are your guys' thoughts as we go into that first day of hearings today? Tess, I know that you and me were Hillary stans, and so, you know, there's, for the Hillary people, I don't know about you, Amy, you too? Oh, yes! So, okay, so we've got
Stronger together.
Yes, hashtag stronger together, and Hillary sometimes likes to join us on this program. So
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys, Tess, what do you think going in day one on the impeachment hearings of Donald Trump? Now he's being impeached for an incitement to insurrection. What are your thoughts just across the board as we jump into it?
I mean, look, he's guilty. We all saw it play out in real time, right? Like, he did the things he's being accused of, and he should be held accountable. But, you know, we have the votes to, well, actually we don't, because we need the majority. Sorry. Like, he probably won't be held accountable because apparently the Republicans won't hold you accountable for anything anymore. You know, is apparently the way that goes in the party. And, you know, I think right now, like, as frightening as the events of 1/6 were, as like such a momentous moment in the history of our democracy, I think right now what we're watching unfold is part of a much bigger problem that's even scarier than 1/6 was, which is there's just no bottom for these Republicans. It's unbelievable. And what's that going to look like in 2 years or another 4 years?
Yeah, and Amy, Tess makes a really good point that it doesn't appear that there will be the Republican support to actually convict Donald Trump, even though these Republicans were on the floor of the Senate during a joint session of Congress, and we're there when they were being like attacked, and yet they will turn the other cheek and not vote to convict. At least that's what we think. What are your thoughts about the Republicans who will just refuse to take action?
What the? It's just crazy. But like, I feel like this was a pimple that needed to pop. Like, we need it to be this way so we know exactly what they are. It's heartbreaking. It's sad. I mean, but I just think I think that insurrection and what happened, would have been easy to gloss over Trump, with enough time. But just the fact that happened and just how disgusting it was, how anti-Semitic it was. Remember, 6 million Jews was not enough. I mean, America had to know, and for the sake of history, we had to know that this is what Trump was. And you know what? The Republicans that follow him, that's who they are too.
Yeah.
Amen. And the Democrats, the House impeachment managers, did a pretty incredible opening presentation today. That was like across the social media landscape, people were like, wow, because they laid out a 13-minute video, which was their opening. Really, they made opening arguments and then played this video that was 13 minutes that paired Donald Trump's statements on that day and showed the violence, splicing together the violence with the comments, like Trump saying, "You got to fight." And then it cuts to a clip of them saying, "Fight for Trump." And he's saying, "Stop the steal." And then they're, tearing down doors, yelling, "Stop the steal." They're parroting his exact language from the speech and then showing the direct consequences. It was a pretty damning video. Did you guys catch this? Did either of you catch this today?
Yeah, I did catch it. I watched it. I think that, like all video that you see of that day, and like you guys too, I'm sure I watched it unfold in real time. The video that it's a video I've never seen. Every time I see a new video, it just gets more visceral to me, what they were doing, the fear. I like tear up when I see Officer Goodman leading them away. And taking that upon himself to lead them in the opposite direction. And, I think it occurred to me then, and I think it's just, it just has been reinforced, is like, we came so close to seeing someone killed on TV that day. I mean, some people did see one of the protesters. I mean, I think some people caught that, but like one of our elected officials, we came very close to seeing them get assassinated by an angry mob that day. And yet, there's, half the people who govern us don't think there should be consequences for that, apparently. That's just business as normal. And I don't know how to hold that in my head and go about my day.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm excited for. All what she said, absolutely. It's horrible. But the horn guy, organic horn guy, he said he wants to testify against Trump. He wants to flip. I'm eating that popcorn. I'm here for this.
Well, and in the video that was shown, which I thought the video was extremely compelling. I tweeted out like, wow, like I don't know how anyone could watch this. It's irrefutable. I don't know how anyone could watch this presentation by the House Democratic impeachment managers, and not vote to convict this guy. It's insane how visceral, just like Tess said, it's just so visceral and painful to watch. And this footage we haven't seen yet. And for people who I think are all fairly plugged in, I watch a lot of news. I follow the news. I report on the news. I was shocked at some of the footage. And then, to hear the video footage of these guys who are saying, "We're taking direction from your boss, Donald Trump." They're like saying, "We're doing this because Donald Trump told us to." And then to hear Amy say, that the horn guy is now throwing his leader, Herr Fuhrer, Donald Trump, under the bus. Trump's strategy is basically to say, these people are crazy. They should be prosecuted for their violence. He's throwing his supporters under the bus. What do you guys think about that? And no love lost between Trump and the people he incited to violence?
No, he told him to keep fighting. He told him we're going to march up there. He told them he loved them. He told him never forget this day hours after it happened and put an exclamation point after it like it was high school graduation. There's a direct correlation between what he said and what they did.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing that from the people that ended up in jail, but you're not seeing it from Josh Hawley or Kevin McCarthy. You have Kevin McCarthy traveling to Florida to kiss the ring. I mean, and I'm sorry, that's us. That's California. We got to do something about him.
Well, California's not it's actually more like the country than not. It's just like our little pockets that are blue and that we're lucky carry the state. But up north there's a militia who don't even consider themselves residents of the state of California. They believe they live in the state of Jefferson. So like there's a whole lot of wackadoodles in California, as evidenced by our elected representatives.
Yeah, and I think Kevin McCarthy, who you referenced, I mean, we've tried to unseat him the last couple cycles. First it was, I forget her name, 2 cycles ago. And we run these incredible women to take him down, and no one seems to be able to do it, unfortunately. But he needs to go. I mean, and what do you guys think of this, what is being reported on as this Republican Civil War, where there's the faction of the party that's the QAnon conspiracist Trump cultists, and Kevin McCarthy goes over there and kisses the ring, like Amy said. And then there's Liz Cheney's and the others the smaller faction, the less loud, the less noisy faction that are really against this Trumpism and wants to take the country back from Donald Trump. How is this identity crisis going to pan out for the Republican Party?
I have no idea. I mean, I was still blown away by how many people voted for him, and I think that I think the Liz Cheneys of the world are, trying to, I don't know if it's their moral conscience or whatever, but you just don't see it happen. You just don't see them taking it seriously. And the QAnon staff, the QAnon stuff is horrible, but these people keep getting elected. Ted Cruz keeps getting elected, so that are we looking at the conspiracy and laughing, or are we becoming the conspiracy? It's really scary.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the party politics involved in it. I don't know if it's possible that if you just dry up the taps of money, if you just go, Ted Cruz, we're going to run someone against you. We're going to support them. We're going to give them all the money. We're going to give them all the resources. I don't know if that makes a difference. I don't know how much Ted Cruz can fundraise on his own without the backing of the Republican Party, or if they're pushing someone else. I honestly don't, but that might be a solution. Like, primary him, find someone to primary him and, put the money behind it. I mean, the problem is in some of these things, as we saw with the Tea Party, is that when when you have someone on the more extreme wing of the Republican Party running in a primary against a more conservative person, the extreme person wins. And we see that on the left somewhat, I think. We have all these ideas about we complain that our Democratic representatives aren't, liberal enough. And so we try to primary them with, people who are too liberal to get elected in a general. And then all we do is we end up with a candidate who can't win, and we end up, just totally cannibalizing our own and weakening the candidate who was there because we spent, several months hammering them. So unfortunately, it doesn't, looks like, I think the Republicans right now, the base is the crazy.
Agreed.
Yeah, comment from Joel saying, "Good evening. Yes, the Republicans are so crazy." And I thought the Trump lawyer was a joke during the impeachment hearing. And Kelsey says, "Ha ha ha! The constitutional Republicans." Yeah, indeed. These Republicans who protest about the constitutionality and being small fiscal, small government Republicans are actually really turning their back on their own Republican identity. And I think, Amy, you're absolutely right. It is very scary. We need two healthy parties in the United States in order to have a functioning democracy. We have to have a healthy opposition party. It's what keeps everybody honest. It's what keeps the pendulum flowing. And we might disagree with one another, but what we're seeing is one of the major parties is being taken over by conspiracists, where we can't even agree on facts anymore. But maybe if we can't agree on facts, we can turn to appeal to people's hearts. And that's what Jamie Raskin did today during the impeachment hearing. So Jamie Raskin is a congressman. He is the impeachment manager appointed by Nancy Pelosi. He did the opening argument today on the House floor, and spoke very emotionally and tearfully, actually, about his experience at the Capitol on January 6th. His son recently died just last month. In December, his 25-year-old son passed away. And he was there at the Capitol with his family the day of the insurrection, and he spoke today during the impeachment. Let's hear a clip of Congressman Jamie Raskin speaking during Donald Trump's impeachment earlier today.
I told my daughter Tabitha, who's 24 and a brilliant algebra teacher in Teach for America now, I told her how sorry I was, and I promised her that it would not be like this again the next time she came back to the Capitol with me. And you know what she said? She said, "Dad, I don't want to come back to the Capitol." Of all the terrible, brutal things I saw and I heard on that day, and since then, that one hit me the hardest. That and watching someone use an American flagpole, with the flag still on it, to spear and pummel one of our police officers ruthlessly, mercilessly, tortured by a pole.
Gets me emotional just watching it again, and to hear him talk in such no uncertain terms about his emotional experience about what happened at the Capitol. What did you guys think about this presentation by Jamie Raskin?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the Republicans don't care about human life, period. They really and truly don't. Any number of things that happened in the last 4 or 5 years that Trump has been the nominee and then later the nominee and then later the grifter squatting there, in the Oval. Any number of things he did should have, if they cared about human life or emotion or an appeal to decency at all, would have stopped them in their tracks, but they don't. So, it reminds me of how marginalized people, right? Whether it's people of color or women or the LGBTQ community, every time some tragedy happens, every time a guy is, accused of rape or whatever, or abortion rights become an issue, we get out there and women and whoever it is whose rights are being infringed upon, we tell our stories, right? We tell our stories, our most painful moments, we dredge them up, hoping that we can get someone to care about them and realize, oh, okay, you mean late-term abortions are like when someone really wants the baby and they can't have it? Maybe we shouldn't make political hay out of the worst day of this woman's life or whatever it is. Like, no, sexual assault really is an important thing. And they don't care. They don't care whatsoever. This is like going to marriage counseling every week with a person who doesn't want to make the marriage better. And it's just emotionally exhausting for us to have to do it. And I feel terrible that man who just lost his son 6 weeks ago has to go through that because they just don't care. They've already made their minds up. They know how they're going to vote.
And to build on that, and I know we're going to see Rep. Gomez later. I'm a mom, and I don't want to say irrational fear because it is a real fear. It's something to be scared about. But I can't even think about gun shooting and school safety. I mean, it just freaks me out. I get really scared. I get really panicky. And just that video that came out of the Rep. Marjorie Greene chasing down David Hogue and just berating him and in his ear, and just harassing him in DC. That boy had to watch his friends die. That boy was at school somewhere that is safe, somewhere where parents drop their kids off and think that they're going to be okay. When did we become a society where it was okay to bully somebody that essentially had to be there when his friends were attacked and died? And I just was so angry watching it before I even knew it. Just tears were falling down my face. How are we this society? How do we think this is okay? And then I don't know if it was a few hours later, maybe early the next day, Jimmy Gomez does that resolution. Get her out. And that's when I know, we keep electing people like that. We keep electing people that are going to say it's not okay. And we are going to govern better. And we're going to show America that, that's all we can hope. We can just hope that our leaders are brave, and the people start to appreciate that bravery and start voting from a place of dignity and character. And our kids. Ugh.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great segue, actually, Amy, for an exclusive that we have for the Read Down and the Stonewall Democratic Club. Earlier, Jonathan Welch, Ebony Murphy-Root, and I were able to sit down for an interview with Congressman Jimmy Gomez. He's the U.S. Congressman from California's 34th Congressional District here in Los Angeles, a friend of the Stonewall Democratic Club. And we wanted to talk to Congressman Gomez about his experience at the Capitol on January 6th. He was there during the insurrection. This is a clip of a longer form interview. If you want to see the full interview, we're going to make the full interview available on our Stonewall Facebook page and YouTube page, and we'll post a link to that in a bit. But here is a preview, a few minutes preview of Congressman Gomez. And I want to also just say, just a trigger warning, he is clearly still very upset about what happened at the Capitol. He's still very clearly affected by it and was very brave to come talk to us about his experience. He is going to talk about some troubling events that happened that day. And so just wanted to give you guys a heads up about that. Here's our conversation with Congressman Jimmy Gomez.
Congressman, you and some of your colleagues have been very open about your experiences at the Capitol on January 6th. And I know it's been important for me and so many others for helping us to understand the magnitude and importance of what happened there that day. Would you mind recalling for our listeners your experience at the Capitol that day, if you feel okay to talk about that?
Not every member was going to be able to sit in the chamber that day. So my chief of staff goes, "Oh, I got you a seat to in the first group to sit in the House gallery to see the Electoral College count." And that's something that I started. We had to be there by 12:45, and I ran over there. I knew, there's going to be protests. I thought it was just going to be normal protesting, nothing that we saw. And when we got over there, it was we started the process, and I was sitting in the House gallery, and then in a short period of time after the objection and they started the debate on Arizona, that's when everything started unraveling pretty quickly. And it was a scary situation. I won't lie. It's I was sitting there watching what was going on the floor. They basically evacuated Speaker Pelosi, the Democratic leadership, and the Republican leadership. I was really pissed when they evacuated Steve Scalise after he finished speaking against the certification of Arizona. So I was really angry about that, because I saw him like the rest of us had to stay there while he was being evacuated from something that he caused. And that's when the tension rose. They locked down the House floor, the gallery, and that's when somebody came on to the rostrum and told everybody to start looking under their seats for gas masks, because the use of gas masks, and that the perimeter was breached. And they announced that they were in the rotunda, and the rotunda is not that far away from the House floor. So we knew that they were super close, and people started panicking, and Ruben Gallego was giving everybody instructions on how to use a gas mask because members were never trained. We didn't even know there was gas masks under the seats. And I helped other members open their gas mask packages. And I was just thinking, wow, we got to get out of here as quickly as possible. And Ruben Gallego kind of signaled to me, like, he's a good friend of mine. He was like, watch what I do. And because he was a Marine, and if I the look in his eyes told me that bad shit was going to happen. And he had his jacket off, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm taking off my jacket so I didn't have my member pin. Took off my tie so people couldn't see that I was trying to look like just a staffer, or if they got in, I was going to try to blend in. So all of a sudden the House floor got evacuated. The Republicans were all on the House floor because they weren't following social distancing guidelines. The only people that were in the gallery are the Democrats. So we start running, trying to get to the other side. And it's not an easy run because each section of the House gallery is steep. It's divided into different sections with handrails. So we had to duck under the handrails. And then we saw the security start barricading the door. And then I was thinking to myself, like, we got to get out. And there's one point I tell this because I did think about it. It's like, what do I want to be remembered as, a member who just ran or a member who stood back and helped other people? So I started helping a few people duck underneath the railings. I was dragging one woman. She was, I think her name was I didn't even know her name at the time, Kathy Manning. And she's like, no, I'm okay. And we kept on running. And then all of a sudden, the members that were in the far back of the line, we got stuck. And that's when everything shut down. And it felt like 10, 20 minutes. It was only about 5 minutes that we were stuck laying on the floor, trying to hide behind anything we could. Because that's when they broke into the third floor outside the gallery doors. They were outside the speaker's lobby where the woman got shot. You heard flash bangs, and we thought we were hearing gunfire, but it was only one shot. So it was a real tense situation, and then we ended up getting out. And one point I did think about, like, hey, is this how our democracy dies? And this is how everything ends. And that was a real moment of like, wow, okay, trying to like assess what was going on. But from that point, after we got out and got into safe room, everybody was really like, let's get back there, certify electoral college votes, send a message that our country is gonna withstand this attack. And sometimes, like, thinking back, sometimes I do an easier job of keeping the emotions and the anger in. And there was a lot of members who suffered from PTSD, including myself. I was really agitated for a few weeks. If I told this to you in person, it would be a lot tougher for me. I'll be honest with you.
I wanted to play, So we want to thank Congressman Gomez for taking some time to talk to us. But I wanted to play him talking about his experience because it was brutal and unrelenting to listen to when we were in the interview with him. And he is wearing his anger and his sadness and his frustration. He really is still wearing it. And we were all very privy to that and really felt for him. And we have this idea of these Congress people being, an idea, and they're people, and they were traumatized. And he was traumatized by this experience. What do you guys think watching that clip of Congressman Gomez? Starting with you, Amy.
I'm proud of him. That is LA pride. It's just absolutely heartbreaking that they had to go through that. It's heartbreaking that this impeachment trial is normalizing it by so many Republicans not acknowledging that it's a problem. But at the end of the day, my heart and my prayers are with Rep. Gomez and everybody that had to experience it. But at the same time, he was the right person to be there. And, I have a lot of gratitude.
Yeah. Tess, your thoughts on the interview with Congressman Gomez?
It just reinforces in a way that we, in a first person account way of how serious the situation was. And I feel for him. I feel his fear and his sadness and the trauma he faces as a result. And, from having to have those questions with himself and, like, how do I want to be remembered in my final moments here? And it makes me angry. After 9/11, we invaded 2 countries that we're still in. I mean, after they went through all of this trauma, and came this close to death, our national leadership, our democracy, we can't even get, 60 people. I mean, again, we'll see what happens, but I'm not holding my breath to convict the guy who incited them to do this. And he's not even going to jail. We just don't want him to get his pension. Like, we don't want to pay for his golf trips anymore. And we can't even get that. It's just truly criminal to me. And it makes me so angry. I share his anger with people like Steve Scalise getting, evacuated. It's like when I see Mitch McConnell getting a vaccine for COVID. No, you wait at the back of the line. You wait at the back of the line for this stuff. This is your monster. You dance with it.
I'm gonna use this is your monster. Yeah. This is your monster. You dance with it.
You brought this monster to the prom. You let it step on your toes.
Yeah. Mitch McConnell, back of the line, Mitch.
Back of the line, buddy.
You're curious about the coronavirus vaccine. You should definitely be the last one to get it. I'm talking to you. And Tess, speak for yourself. I want to see Donald Trump behind bars. I want to see his whole family behind bars. Call me petty because I am, but I want to see him locked up. That's just my preference.
I want to see him, on a prison toilet, but I mean, not really. That's gross. But you know what I mean? I want to know that he's on a prison toilet. I don't want to see it. But my point is, impeachment's not sending him to jail. What's the worst thing that happens with impeachment once you've left office? We just don't want to pay your pension or, give you your traveling budget. Whatever happens to once we, send old presidents out to the farm, whatever they get, whatever their parting gifts are, we just don't think they should get their parting gifts or run for office again. That's the minimum that impeachment does. It can't send you to jail. It doesn't even fine you.
Yeah. And Amy,
if all those people move to Florida, Trump can be governor of Florida, and then Florida can just be its own. I'm fine with that. Like that, if that's a deal we need to make, I'm okay with that.
If all the right states were to secede from the left states, we would hold the majority of the country's educational systems, wealth, jobs, infrastructure. And also the fifth Senate is split 50-50, but Democratic senators represent 40 million more Americans than Republicans do, which is a testament to how undemocratic the United States Senate is, but that's neither here nor there. What we do know is this impeachment trial has more ramifications than just saying guilty. It's, as Tess said, preventing this guy from ever running from office again. And Amy, you would think that Republicans, especially Republicans like Ted Cruz or like Josh Hawley or like Ben Sasse, well, Ben Sasse is an exception, but these Republicans who want to be president in 2024 probably don't want to have to compete with Donald Trump in 2024, right? And he wants to run again. So don't these Republicans have a vested interest in kind of making sure this doesn't happen? What's the political calculus there?
They'll lose votes. Look, Trump still got votes, and I think that they don't want to disenfranchise that crazy base.
I mean, look, he called Ted Cruz's wife ugly and said his dad killed Kennedy, and he still cups the man's balls. It's like, what do you have to do? Look, I'm married. I would there'd be a serious problem in my house if my husband was still working with a guy, kissing the ass of a guy who called me ugly on national TV. There'd be no joy here.
Within weeks, Ted Cruz was photographed. I mean, he insulted your wife and your family. He ridiculed you on national television. You lost the primary to him, and within weeks, you're on the phone making calls for him. Ted, you have no shame. You're the worst. Ted Cruz is among the worst in the United States Senate in terms of feckless, craven, shameless, self-aggrandizing, self-promoting, dishonest, disingenuous, like just bold, right to your face, doesn't care. He's just going to say what he has to. And it's just so utterly pathetic. And yet people still vote for him. He is one of the most pathetic. He has no dignity. It's pathetic. You are a pathetic person, Ted. But hold on. Let me show you let me tell you guys how I really feel the show about Ted Cruz. But Jimmy Gomez, beautiful clip. Thank you, Congressman, for coming on the program. If you want to catch the full 25-minute interview, he talks about his experience at the Capitol. He talks about his resolution to expel Marjorie Taylor Greene, the freshman QAnon conspiracy theorist congresswoman from Georgia, from Congress because of her radical hate speech and violent speech. And he talks about the necessity of convicting Donald Trump. So check out the full interview. It's going to be live on our Stonewall YouTube and Facebook accounts right after the show ends tonight. You can check out the long-form interview there. But yes, quick mention, Jimmy Gomez's resolution to expel Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican of Georgia, 14th Congressional District, and her losing her committees. Did you guys see this? The House Democrats voted to strip Marjorie Taylor Greene of her committee assignments. I know you kind of briefly touched on, Amy briefly touched on seeing the video of her sort of stalking David Hogg. But what were your thoughts on this finally coming to fruition?
Oh, I was so happy. I was so happy somebody just stood up and said, this isn't right. It's just heartbreaking that this stuff keeps going on. Yeah, I was really, like I already said, I was so proud of Jimmy Gomez, only because I'm not a person that cries a lot, and just being overtaken with tears, it was so nice to know that somebody else agreed, like, this isn't right. So yeah, I was super happy. But then did you see she tweeted, oh, now I'm getting paid to do nothing and I have more free time. Like, who does? God, that lady. I'd cut her. No, just kidding.
Honestly, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Lauren Boeberts, and even the Trumps to some extent, I'm kind of, my brain has gone a different way with all of this. And I don't think there's no easy answer to this question, but it does make me wonder if we need job requirements to run the country. And I know that sounds like so stupid to say, but we don't really have them beyond, like, you have to be a certain age, and for the president, you have to be a citizen, natural born citizen. But like, as we've seen with Trump and some of these people, to have no experience is not a good thing to go into this. And we can't count on the American people to vet people who don't have the required experience anymore. And I realize that, this goes both ways, right? Like, all of our candidates and officials have a variety of experiences. It's hard to do a one-to-one comparison and say what background you need or what level of education or whatever. But also, let's not kid ourselves that these are people who are getting to DC to do a job that requires putting together budgets and writing legislation and managing a staff. And I'm not sure that, like, anybody should just be able to do that. And we certainly can't count on the electorate to weed out who can't anymore.
I don't know. This is to the point of how bad it's gotten, because everyday people are supposed to be able to step up and lead each other. You shouldn't have to be a Harvard graduate. You should be a person that cares about your community and wants to make it better for people. Of course, yes, of course we want them to be competent. But
and if you're just an everyday person who wants to make your community better, do you have to start with one of the 3 highest, offices in the land? Maybe city council, maybe your neighborhood council or something. Maybe state assembly. Like, I don't know. Again, I said it's the start. There's no easy answer because, there are people we like who get there and don't, might not have what would be the required experience. But it just seems like we need something to save ourselves from someone who goes to Washington and, doesn't know how to, work to broker a deal or write legislation or balance a budget or manage a staff. And
or apparently have any sane thought processes. I mean, like you don't even have a sanity requirement anymore. And there is something to be said about someone who's elected and their constituents elected them. But also, if I were to say that there were Jewish space lasers that created forest fires in California, or if I were at work and I were to say that 9/11 didn't happen and that the Parkland kids were faking it, I'd probably lose my job, and Marjorie Taylor Greene probably should too. There's this idea that because their constituents elected them means that they get a blank check to do whatever they want and say whatever they want is absurd. And yeah, like, why don't we have a better, why aren't we doing a better job of vetting our elected officials? And it's because the people in that district heard what she had to say and didn't care. So we're getting down to a thing now where, like, yes, we should have processes by which we remove people like Marjorie Taylor Greene because she's not fit for that office. But why are her constituents electing her? That, to me, is the bigger issue. And Ebony Murphy-Root is saying, not to be a snob, but I needed a master's degree to teach middle school English. Just caring was not enough. Amen. And we miss you, Ebony. Wish you were here. Love you. Miss you.
She brings up a great point. And by the way, if like you were to decide tomorrow, like I don't know what, if you have a bachelor's, if I have a bachelor's, if I were to decide tomorrow, hey, I want to go get my master's to teach middle school English, I'd probably have to take half my bachelor's over again to qualify, because a lot of times, like they, you know, your credits have like a statute of limitations or something. Like everyone I know going for a post-grad degree who's been out of school too long has to go back and take half these courses again.
Yeah, I didn't go to school, or where I grew up, no one got a post-bachelor or a postdoc. It's an equity issue when you talk about education and who can run for office.
No, I like I said,
I hear what you're saying. I definitely hear what you're saying, but I do think that like it's a bigger conversation than dialing it down to just who has a master's degree.
I know, and I didn't say it had to be education. I didn't say it had to be education. It could be job experience.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying, but I just think that some of the comments should be thought about with an equity lens, because not everybody has the same opportunity, but everybody, you know, should be able to lead. I'm not saying that should be Marjorie Taylor Greene, but I just don't believe in an exclusive, in a, you know, like I believe in including everybody, and that's going to mean different things for different people. She's ruining it for everybody. Like
Ebony's point is more that it might not be about an education threshold, but that there is an aptitude threshold in certain areas. Like you need to know what you're talking about if you're going to educate others, right? She's an educator. She's required to have a master's degree before she can educate others. And for Congress, I'm not saying that it needs to be an elite class where only the educated are able to obtain positions in Congress. I think people from all walks of life should be able to serve in Congress, right? But they should have a certain aptitude for the job, and they should have a certain aptitude of the way government works, and they should have a certain sanity. And Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Agreed.
So whatever that aptitude test, and I use the term test loosely, not as a actual test, but whatever our test as constituents who elect our elected leaders is, we need to look at why our people in certain areas are not vetting their candidates more judiciously. And maybe it's we've become so partisan. Maybe it's because there is a lack of access to education, or maybe people are more disenfranchised in her districts. Maybe we need to be putting more money into education. Maybe we need to be putting more money into civics for people in grade school and in high school. I don't know what the solution is, but what I know is Marjorie Taylor Greene is us. She's elected. She is us. And
I mean, everything you said is completely accurate. The one thing that you left out is undue influence. Who are the people behind Marjorie Greene? Who are the people funding her ads, and ads that are probably lying? You know, I often say if you're riling people up about abortion in this area, they ignore that they have black lung is coming back from coal mines. I feel like a lot of this is done by a lot of these candidates get in because of special interests wanting to distract from raping our planet, of the things they're going after. So I don't know, but I do think part of it is, I do think campaign finance reform is a huge part of how these people keep getting in.
Yeah, and hopefully with this new Democratic Congress, we can get bills like HR 1 passed and start to address campaign, just elections in general, and the equity issues that are coming up in our elections, and overturn Citizens United. Everybody, just don't forget, we're so busy with COVID and the potential downfall of democracy that we've forgotten that Citizens United needs to be overturned. So
Kirsten Gillibrand had an excellent plan for how everyone would get $600 per election for the federal, everyone would have $200 to give to their representative, to give to their senator, to give to their presidential candidate of their choice. And in that way, it would be that they had to go everywhere. If everyone had the same $600, candidates had to go everywhere and listen to everyone. It was a really great plan that she had unveiled when she was running for president.
Kelsey says, as long as there is monopoly of money, we will have undue influence. I think that's a great point. Ebony saying, what happens? Oh, Ayanna Pressley does not have a BA. She is great.
She is great. I never advocated for an education. To be fair, I never said that they should.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean it that way. Just when you're throwing, I use education as an example. When you're throwing out requirements, like the people that get screwed over by requirements and poll taxes and all that kind of thing, they generally tend to look the same, have darker skin. So I just think overall, while I wildly agree with you, we do have to keep in mind that like democracy at its core works best when it's inclusive. And it sucks that special interests and people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are trying to ruin that. But we need the Ayanna Presleys of the world. We need the, people that are gonna, I don't know. But yes, I didn't mean that you were saying education. I was using an example.
Well, Ayanna's a great example. But she was, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't she sit on the city council of Boston before she won her spot in Congress?
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. I'm just saying she's I'm not saying that that's great experience to have before you go and sit in Congress.
Yeah. And which to Kelsey's point, it popped up this comment a second ago. She says, yeah, age and nationality kind of discriminatory as job requirements. So, we do have requirements about age, that they be U.S. born for president, at least. So there are a framework by which we have requirements of our elected officials. I think the conversation about equity and making sure that it is not making it so exclusive that it precludes everyday people from running for Congress is very, very important, salient. But how do we walk the fine line? Maybe not a conversation that'll be resolved today, but something. And look, Kelsey says to buy books, yes. And Ebony Brute says Holly and Cruz have Ivy League degree, and so does Trump and Ivanka and Jared and Tiffany. Ick. Amen, Ebony. So look. In Joe Biden's America, though, COVID relief is what the transition is going to be with no transition. But we're got to get to COVID relief before we go to the reads. So I want to touch base on Joe Biden and what he's been doing in his first couple of weeks. President Biden is moving forward with this $1.9 trillion COVID-19 stimulus package. Republicans had wanted to lower this, and they came to the White House to meet on this. They offered a $600 billion package. And in an attempt at bipartisanship, Republican senators went to the White House on this. Joe Biden very politely saying no. He's asking House Democrats and Senate Democrats to move forward with a reconciliation bill, which will allow the full $1.9 trillion COVID-19 stimulus package to be passed with only a simple majority of the vote, and it can bypass the filibuster by tying it into a budget reconciliation bill. So he is remaining firm on $1,400 checks for everyday Americans, even though some Democrats are trying to narrow who receives it. What do you guys think about Biden's COVID-19 stimulus package? Is $1.9 trillion enough? Is it too much? And what do you think of the Democratic response here of just plowing forward without Republican support?
Well, I'm just going to say that our vice president, she's going to have a nice little tight body from all that running up those stairs. break those ties. I'm loving it. And I just, AOC tweeted, and I thought it was just a great tweet. These stimuluses are based on 2019 income. Like, it's 2021 after a pandemic. You know what? Be generous. If that first round of, we know in the first package that Kanye West shoe company got all this money, and it was all of Steven Mnuchin's business partners that got so much money. Like, I don't know why, when it comes to helping everyday Americans, that all of a sudden, like, grab my wallet, like, clutch my pearls. No, these are neighbors that are hungry. Like, these are people that need help. These are people that, need to do things with their kids because their kids are home all day. Maybe, I don't know. My point is that, we just really, I don't know what it is. If it's we just need to help each other out. And I think Joe Biden knows that. I hope that they're ambitious with helping Americans, because it's hard out there for people right now.
Yeah. And Tess, your thoughts on
well, first, I agree with, just to back up Amy's point, like, I totally agree that using 2019 taxes as a snapshot doesn't indicate any of the financial devastation anybody has felt since the pandemic started. So I don't like, that's a bad metric right there. I think 81 million people voted for Joe Biden, and we need to use the full force of that. We need to walk in we need to walk into this with that gravitas and do everything we can, because we have got an untenable problem. And for the last year that this has been going on, our state governors have been handling this. And, the states don't have an unlimited source of income, and they've been having to fill in the gaps themselves here. I think it needs to be really far reaching. I think we need to think along the lines of the Works Progress Administration in order to get Americans back to work, and find ways, find things that need doing and hire people to do it. And, that led to a really great, it led to a lot of growth in our country, and also a lot of opportunities for, people we consider giants now in the film of arts and entertainment, and the areas of arts and entertainment and stuff. So I think, I think we need to think broad, and I think we need to act like 81 million people voted for us.
Start acting like you got a mandate, Democrats.
Yeah. Because guess what? It's over in 2 years, right? Statistics show that in 2 years, we're going to lose our advantage anyway. And Joe Biden's been around long enough that he knows this.
Yep. Well, 100%. Thank you for that, Tess. And we're running out of time. So it is that time of the week. It's that time of the episode to open up the library. The library is open. This is our chance to take a couple minutes, get on our soapbox, read someone for filth, speak from the heart, or just speak about really anything that appeals to us or is tugging at our minds or our heartstrings. And I'd like to start this week with our very special guest, panelist, Tess Rafferty.
Well, I guess I want to talk to the segment of the left who is currently feasting on our own and involved in this baby with the bathwater politics. We have relatives we don't agree with, and we insist on seeing them at the holidays. I don't agree with my husband all the time, and I sleep next to him at night. But for some reason, when it comes to our elected officials that we have never met, who represent thousands, if not millions of this, we expect this complete fealty to whatever it is that we believe. And the minute they have, they do something we don't approve of, or that, we don't agree with, it's like we start calling for them to be primaried, and we start telling them they should resign. It's like on one side, we have Republicans who will forgive anything. And on the other side, we have Democrats who will forgive nothing. And if we can't learn to approach things as Democrats with a little bit more complexity and nuance, we are going to lose everything. It's like we have to understand that we're not the only Democrat in the party, and that whether or not we agree with people like Joe Manchin, he is representing his constituents, and he is more of an asset to us in this party than he is outside of it. And that getting rid of Joe Manchin doesn't mean we have some more progressive in his place. It means we have a Republican. So anyway, that's my thing, is that we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater, and we don't have an endless supply of baby and bathwater.
It's not unlimited baby bathwater, everybody.
It's not unlimited baby bathwater.
Thank you, Tess. Thank you, Tess. Thank you for your read this week. Amy Wiwuga, our very special guest panelist this week. Who would you like to read? Get on that soapbox.
Tess, preach. Again, like, it is math. We need to stay together. Like, I just don't get why people don't get that. But I digress. Tess, that was beautiful. Okay, it was so wonderful to have Kamala become the vice president. Just amazing. But it was bittersweet because when she left, she's the last last Black Democratic senator that was a woman, or Black woman. And then, we're seeing that in the California State Senate too, that now with Holly Mitchell leaving to become a supervisor in our city, now we won't have any Black women. And we're the state and we're this party that preaches Black women, Black women are the base of the party. You guys carry us on your backs. Blah, 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 blah. But here we are, no Black women in the Senate. So I am just so dedicated to filling Holly Mitchell's seat with Stonewall endorsed candidate Sydney Kamlager. And then this is kind of the cool thing, because it's like, you don't want to come here and say has to be a Black woman. But it's not just that she's a Black woman. That would be awesome. She's a brilliant Black woman. She's from the district. She's Holly Mitchell's, not from the district, from Holly Mitchell's brought her up as district director, and she's in the assembly. And so it's not just any Black woman, it's one of our best. And I'm just really hopeful that California will follow Stonewall and just elect her. And if you want to help us with our texting, try to match Queen Jane Wishon, who's like one of her top texters. I think she sent out 10,000 texts. Join us. You can sign up on our website, sydneykamlager.com.gov.org, something, just Google her. But that is what I'm super passionate about, is getting a great Black woman back in the Senate.
Amen. Amen. Sydney Kamlager, everybody who wants to learn a little bit more about how to get involved with Stonewall's efforts to elect Sydney or any of our endorsed candidates, you can visit us at stonewalldems.org, and we will have information for you there.
What district is Sydney in? What district is she in?
Is she running?
SD 27?
I don't know. Not mine. Yeah. But I know that
not mine.
You are very excited about her. Thank you, Amy, for your read this week. I want to just take a moment this week to speak from the heart for a second. And I don't know, it's not to make anyone uncomfortable or anyone, but I kind of want to just eulogize my father, Alex Mohajer, who died on Saturday from COVID-19. And I wanted to do this because it struck me, I was estranged from my dad. I had not seen him in 21 years when he passed. And his death was a shock to me, and COVID-19 being the reason was even more shocking, because apparently he got sick and he died very quickly. And I was estranged from my dad, but what happened when he died is I lost really the opportunity to ever get to know this person, to get to know a person that I had never known, to know the person that brought me into this world. So I have been going through really complicated feelings and emotions. And also part of those feelings are that this is just another person who's died from this disease. In the United States, we're going to hit 500,000 deaths from coronavirus by March, and across the world, even more. And that he's just a nameless, faceless number. In an ever-growing number. And that to me is really tragic, regardless of my relationship to him. And now having lost somebody close, or that was close to me in relation, at least, to this disease, it's really it hitting home in a way where I feel the pain of the people who have lost somebody, whether estranged or not, whether you're mourning the lost opportunity of knowing a person or reconnecting with a person that you haven't spoken to in a while, or it's someone that's very near and dear to you that you spend every day with. It's not lost on me that many, 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 many hundreds of thousands of people are suffering tonight and have been for some time because of their lost loved ones. And I wanted to just take a moment and say his name. He died not leaving really anything behind. He left behind a wife. Her name is Elmira Hendesi, and that was it. And 2 children with whom he was estranged. So not anything to his name, not a book like Tess or anything like that. Just a man, and a troubled man who didn't know how to be a father to me exactly, but he was my father, and he's gone. So I wanted to say his name and take that moment to acknowledge the pain of everybody else who might be watching this, who's lost somebody close to them. And let's keep each other safe. This doesn't need to be the experience that we shouldn't have to have this shared experience of pain and loss and trauma. And I don't wish it on anyone else. Wear your mask, stay safe, get the vaccine when it's your turn. And let's put this awful period behind us as soon as we can, as soon as we possibly can. And that's my soapbox this week. Sorry if I made it a little heavy, guys. But anyway, thank you guys. Thank you guys for bearing with me. I want to thank our very special guest panelists this week, Tess Rafferty. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Alex. I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Tess, where can people buy your book and support you?
They can go to Amazon. It's available on Amazon. That would be great. They can follow me on Twitter at Tess Rafferty.
And the book is Under the Tuscan Gun, Tess Rafferty.
It's a murder mystery set in Italy. It's humorous, and it's a good escape right now.
I'm buying it right now because that's what I need, girl. And thank you so much to our special guest panelist, Amy Wiwuga. Thank you for joining, Amy.
Nice being here and sending you love.
Thank you, Amy. We'll see you very soon. Stepping in for our special, for my co-hosts who are gone this week, Jonathan Welch and Ebony Murphy-Brute, and you guys didn't disappoint. Very well done. We want to thank Congressman Jimmy Gomez for his time and his interview with us. If you want to catch our full interview with Congressman Jimmy Gomez, visit us on YouTube or Facebook, youtube.com/Stonewall Democrats or Facebook.com/Stonewall Democratic Club, or become a member of this amazing organization. You can do that by visiting www.stonewalldems.org/join. We will be back next week. Thank you to our stage manager, Peter, and love to you all. Many besos. Thank you, everybody. This has been The Read Down.
Very newlywed game.